At long last, Attack on Titan has officially come to an end, and I feel like it's fitting to kind of have this image on screen first for this video, because ever since the manga came to a close, this image in the manga, and now I see it for the foreseeable future for the anime, it'll be one of the most memed scenes in the history of Attack on Titan. But before I get into that and I talk about that, let's just get into everything. Let's just get the information out there for everybody's aware before you go any further with this video. When I finished the manga of Attack on Titan a few years back, gonna be completely blunt, I hated it. I hated the ending. I had 2 videos on it. I talked about it when the ending first came out, and then I talked about it a few weeks later when there was an extra 8 pages added, and I said I hated it even more than I did the original ending because some of the added content just was not good. It gave way more question marks and basically made it to where Aaron's entire journey throughout the story was pretty much for nothing. It was worthless, and everything that the story amounted to basically was pointless. That is pretty much how I felt about the conclusion of the manga a few years back when the final chapter and its extra pages came out. So, obviously, it's been a long time since that happened, and I've had a long time to really sit on my feelings, my thoughts of Attack on Titan, my journey throughout the anime, my journey of watching these final episodes, or the final chapters as, Crunchyroll calls them on this site. I've had a long time to really think about it. And think about how I truly felt about the conclusion, the ending, and up to this very moment, or up to this, day, when, before I watched this episode, my thoughts still remained very firm. For instance, I truly believed that, I didn't like Attack on Titan's ending. And so I went into this episode pretty much knowing that it would be all downhill around this part of the episode. I knew that, I was going to start not really liking the content and the way the story was going to evolve because of just certain events that happen. And so I had already some bias against the ending in this episode. But regardless of that, I do also want to make a disclaimer that before I even began, okay, I also wanted to respect the legacy. And I even made this very clear in the video I made a week ago when the final trailer came out. I made it very clear that even if, let's say, I came to hate the ending of the anime of Attack on Titan, that I would respect the legacy of what Attack on Titan has done for the anime industry and the manga industry. It's been very impactful. It has shaped so many new anime and manga, light novels. It will have an impact for the foreseeable future, and regardless of just meme culture, it will be discussed, analyzed, and broken apart for decades. It is going to be something that is going to be looked back upon 10 to 20 years from now, and people are going to discuss this series, ripping it apart, and even talking about the ending, saying it was a good ending, saying it's a bad ending, it was a neutral ending, whatever. There's going to be a lot of videos, a lot of discussion around it, which just goes to show that it really is a legendary series that is, or has made an impact on culture itself, at least for anime and manga. So, with that said, how do I feel about this final episode? Let's get it. Let's clear the air. Let's talk about it. So, since I've already made it abundantly clear, before I even started this, I had some bias towards it. I left this episode happier than how I left the manga. And I think that anyone that knew how harsh I was with my reviews on the manga's ending can probably say that's very high praise. That is very high praise that I even remotely am saying I left this anime with, I would bump it up from, how I had a 4 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10 to probably a 7 or even an 8. It was a legitimately good final episode. Definitely hard carried by the staff and the voice acting and all that worked on this episode, but legit, even the story elements, even some of the flaws I have with the story, was enhanced and more understandable, digestible, and changed a little bit to make it more acceptable for the audience that watched this. And so let's give a good part here. This scene is very iconic, and let's get into this, since I've had it on the screen already for a while. This scene is iconic because Eren breaks down and is basically, I don't want her to find someone, I don't want her, and all that, I don't want her to do that. And this entire scene is Eren showing weakness at the final moments of, I don't want to die, which is understandable, but he's I don't want to die, I don't want, Mikasa to move on, I want her to love me, I, want to love her, I want her to be with me. He's just saying all these feelings, and it comes out of, like, left field. It's a huge whiplash, and even in the anime, it is an incredible whiplash of emotions, because the entire theme of this episode is just Eren is this unstoppable force that is giving his friends a chance, but overall, it's just like, he's going to conclude his job. He is going to kill off humanity. He is going to 100% wipe out the opposing force, because that is the only way to save his friends, to save Paradise Island. That was his objective, at least before we got to the scene and we found out a little bit more about it and how you'd be stopped, etc. The point of the matter is that everything up to this very moment, these final moments of, the series, you were under the impression that Eren was just this stone-cold person that was just driven. He has to move forward, driven by conviction, and he needed to finish his job. Okay. And so when you get to this scene, and the reason why a lot of people dislike the scene is because it is a whiplash. It is a straight whiplash of emotions, and even if this goes into how Eren's character was a few seasons back, the thing is that this is an Eren that's been hardened by so many deaths. So many people has died, and he has chosen to let die, that it also comes off very like, why are you doing this? Why are you crying or being emotional at this moment after everything you have done? And I'll talk about that in a second. But the point is I'm trying to get into the psyche of why people dislike this scene. It is a huge whiplash. And it comes off like, why? Why all of a sudden is Eren breaking as a character after he's just done so many atrocities? And I mean, at this point in time, basically, he's killed so many millions of people by trampling them with the rumbling. So it's just like, everything considered, it's like, holy crap, man. Like, this is not the time to be breaking down crying when you've already set in motion your entire plan and already given up at this point to even changing anything. So it's just like, why? Why do this? But anyways, enough with that. The point of the matter is that this scene in particular, I didn't always have a huge issue with it. Like, I had problems with him not wanting Mikasa to move on. It was very selfish, yes, especially for a man, that's very selfless and kind of putting his life on the line and willing to die to, unite Paradise and, save everyone, all of his friends and family. He's a very selfless person, technically, all things considered up to this point. So it was a very, like, out of field things. Like, he's acting very selfish, so to speak, just like, oh, I want Mikasa to basically never forget about me after my death. It's just like, bro, what the hell? But, anyways, this is not the scene that I legitimately had most problems with. The scene I had with after this is when he starts talking to Armin, and he starts saying that, like, oh, I don't want to leave Mikasa or any of you and all that. And this anime episode starts talking about how Eren and Armin are going to go to hell. Like, they will go to hell together. For instance, when Eren dies, he's probably going to a bad place, and Armin will probably follow him into that abyss, because they both have killed countless people. Technically, in the way this anime episode explains it, is that Armin set Eren on this path. Even if Eren kind of made a lot of decisions on his own to get the Titans, the founding Titan, etc., Armin still tries to take responsibility, which is a huge improvement to his character, showcasing that, he is taking responsibility of everything after, Erwin died and all that, and he's like, yeah, I have obviously condemned a lot of people to death as well. I'm just as responsible for the rumbling as you are, Eren, and so we'll both go to hell together. And organically speaking, this episode conveys that very well. And now you're probably wondering, why do I have a problem with this? Well, let's show you the manga. So the manga equivalent of this, and this is the chapter, okay? This is legit the chapter of the manga, the final chapter with the extra pages and all that. I want to show you this scene. So this was in the manga. And this is the actual official dialogue. If you look here, Armin says this to Eren. Read it from, right to left. And it doesn't take, like, a lot of brain cell power to understand what is wrong with this dialogue. It's like, for one, Armin is pawning off all the responsibility and everything, all the weight and burden of the world over to Eren. That's literally how it feels, how it is conveyed to the audience, that he's throwing all the deaths and everything onto Eren's shoulders. This is how the manga was. This was the actual final chapter of the manga of Attack on Titan. And so this stung a lot of people. It stung a lot of people. It's like, why would Armin be like, oh, thank you for killing so many people for our sakes? It felt like, whoa. once again, another whiplash of just emotions and just like trying to convey Armin as a character. It's just like he wasn't really trying to take responsibility, and on the top of that, it was just like, oh, I'm fine with people dying. It's just like, bro, what? It was really messed up. It was a legitimately messed up sequence here, with all things considered, when you factor in everything with Armin's character and, Aaron's character and Erwin and all that, and just what Armin's been doing. It's just, it felt very out of place. So when you see this happen in the anime, they obviously don't have that line. Like, you watch the scene again for yourself. They do not have this. And this is a meme scene as well. People have memed the hell out of these panels because of this. But it is not in the anime. So they completely cut that, changed it into basically Armin accepting that he will go to hell too with Eren. And so it comes off more organically. So they fixed a huge issue that a lot of people had with Armin and Eren's character with this little exchange. It's a huge improvement that definitely made the episode a lot more enjoyable to me. And once again, I went into this episode very, very biased to a degree. I'm not even going to lie. I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat it. So the fact that I think that it's much better, it won me over. But there's other scenes. The final sequence is another contender I complained about in the manga. When I was reviewing the manga, the final chapter and all that, we saw at the end, and here I'll show you. Basically, if you come down here and you look, the final moments of the manga, you see like the flash forward where you see, an old Mikasa and whoever she married with kids, etc. And it's very clear it's John. It's very obvious it's John. And you see the kid and all that, and visiting Eren's grave, and you see construction being done to Paradise Island. The place is doing a lot better. And as you can see, time passes a little bit, and the buildings, they get blown up, and then you see destruction. And basically, it's like, so and probably like 20 years, 10 years, they rebuilt and they came back and killed all of Paradise. It's like, really? So it pretty much made everything just like, so Eren should have finished everyone off. Flock was right as well, and it's just like, they really should have annihilated the other side. Dark ending, but, that was the point that was being made here. It just, our characters all died, and Eren, basically backed out and cried out and didn't finish the job. This was the original conclusion of the manga, as you can see here. So let's shift over to the anime. You look to the anime here, I'm going to just let you see it. You can easily see with the final sequence of events here that you can see the weapons and stuff being used, but the buildings are way more futuristic. It is 100% more futuristic, and you see the skyscrapers being built with these credit scenes. It basically showcases that a lot more time passed in comparison to the manga. In the manga, these look like typical skyscrapers that you'd see in like year 2000, 2001, 2005. This is not necessarily something that is futuristic. It looks like modern day where we're currently at. And technically, Attack on Titan, if we had to consider where its story was taking place, was probably in the 1930s, 1940s. So it is obviously still a gap. But it's like, really, we knew there was a lot of advancement in the world outside of Paradise Island. So it's like, all things considered, their technology was already pretty advanced. So it's like, when you look at this, it's like, it doesn't come off right. It feels like maybe they only rebuilt for maybe 10 to 20 years and that was it. But when you look at, the anime, it's very clear, like 100 or even more so years passed until they came back. And the conflict that happens here probably isn't even completely affiliated with, like, Ymir and the Titans. It's just affiliated with probably, other reasons, etc. It could be oil, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is that the way the ending of the episode conveys it is that it is not completely people just taking vengeance against Eren and the rumbling. There's probably a part of that, but there's enough time that passed that a lot of the old generation has probably forgotten. So yeah, I feel like the anime, once again, it corrected another issue because the manga conveys it like it's only been 10 years, and a lot of people that survived from that 20% is going to be angry. But if you convey it to where like 100 plus years have passed, then most of the old generation that was a part of the rumbling has just forgotten. So they wouldn't really even know the pain of it. And so, yeah. Anyways, that was corrected. But now it is time to whiplash into the negative. So, the things that this episode did not fix, and I think that is very important to talk about, is the entire segment with Ymir here. I think that this is a very bad segment, and it showcases the flaws that Isayama had as a writer at the end here. And let me explain. The problem here is that Isayama turned the story about war and hatred and all that into a love story. And it wasn't properly conveyed. Like, majority of the series, anyone that really takes a hard look at Attack on Titan, okay, let's just look at the entirety, the grand span of the anime and the manga. The story is about, at first, humans trying to discover the world outside the walls. Who are these Titans? Who sent them? What are they, etc., and trying to make it to the beach, make it to the sea, so to speak. And then they find out that there's humans across the ocean that are sending Titans and stuff over to them, trying to kill them, eradicate them, and it's just basically bad blood between two factions for a very long time, and technically no side truly knew the original origin point or history of how it really all started. They had their own history, so to speak, of what really happened, and they were always back and forth, and just this bad blood could not be settled, and they were killing each other. One side had to be eliminated, which is what led to the rumbling and why Eren was like, one side's got to go. It's either our side or their side. And Flock as well, that was, chastised multiple times throughout the story, technically was right in the end. Because if they would have finished the opposing side, Paradise wouldn't have died at the end credits. Just gonna say. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that the story has always been about the cycle of hatred and just, bad blood and how, there will never be truly an end to conflict. But Isayama decided to change the story's main message to love and romance. Like, the whole thing here at the ending sequence is Mikasa loving Eren. Eren never really got to say to her that he loves her. It was like love that just never was fulfilled between the two, but there was a mutual understanding, a bond there. But basically, Eren never said, I love you to Mikasa. Mikasa never really said it to him, and that's basically it. And the whole reason why, Mikasa was even destined to be alive, so to speak, was for her to bring down Eren. Like, that was the whole role, that Ymir guided Mikasa to take down Eren, and it turned into like a love story, so to speak. Like, the way the message is conveyed here is that it's a love story, that, Mikasa will be the one to end the suffering, to end the line and pain of, like, the Titans, etc., take down Eren, take down her lover and all that, and just put an end to it all. And it's just like, it comes off kind of weird. So they retcon this, and as you can see here, this is basically King Fritz, and we get to actually see what really happened here. That King Fritz got stabbed by the spear, and let me get everybody up to speed for everybody remembers this, okay? So basically, what's going on with this brief little scene that happens here with Ymir and Mikasa kind of having a conversation is that King Fritz never was alive. Technically, Ymir didn't take that spear and die for him. King Fritz died, and Ymir was with her children. And what makes this a really bad sequence is because it's not confirmation if this is what Ymir wanted. Like, for instance, if this is a what if, like, what could have happened if Ymir would have stepped away and allowed King Fritz to die. Or if, like, Ymir didn't actually die. And it's very complicated because what this scene does is it muddies the waters of, like, okay, if this actually happened, and this is legit, okay, let's just say this is the true history of what happened to King Fritz and Ymir did not die to the spear, that means the whole elements of, like, the 13 years of, like, Titans, for instance, like, the reason why there's a time limit on Titans and they can only live for a certain amount of time is because Ymir died after that long, when she had the Titan. She died, and then it passed on to her descendants. And then also the reason why the children even got Titan shifting powers is because they ate their mother. That whole horrific scene that was in the manga was kind of censored in the anime, but they ate their own mother because King Fritz forced his children, and, Ymir's children, to eat her, to be able to pass on the genes of the Titan shifting powers. And that's kind of what led to the legacy and the cycles of Attack on Titan to be like it is throughout the entire story. So, if this is legit accurate, and King Fritz actually did die, and Ymir somehow lived, it's like, how did all the other stuff happen? What happened here? So, yes, I know this is probably a message saying that this is what, Ymir probably wanted, that she wanted this to happen. But the problem is, it's not properly conveyed. Not even the anime properly conveys this, and that is a huge flaw. Because it's left up in the air if this is the true history or not. Which does kind of play with the themes of Attack on Titan, that, you never know really what happened, but it's still very bad, especially for the final chapter. Now, another problem here is I never really dived into this one too much, even in my manga reviews for the ending, but another problem is that even if hypothetically we're wanting to believe that this is fake or whatever, the problem is that Ymir's love for King Fritz makes legit no sense. And, okay, we know that they had years together, And there probably was, like, a lot of honeymoon moments, just beautiful moments between the two most likely, but it is conveyed very toxically, and just, like, it's not a good relationship. Like, Ymir has Stockholm Syndrome. That's literally what is conveyed here, that the reason why she died for him was because of Stockholm Syndrome. She was basically his slave, and that's it. And she had children with him. That's it. And so she never really loved him. She was just basically just Stockholm to just do that type of stuff. And we never get to see King Fritz's actual, like, personality. Like, all we know is that he's this very cruel ruler, so to speak, and he was very cruel to Ymir, cutting off her tongue and all that, just doing horrific stuff, so to speak, to her. We never got to see maybe his good side, and I feel like Isayama really dropped the ball there, is that if we would have gotten the good side, even some elements, even a panel, it would have humanized him even a little bit to allow us to understand why Ymir would even want to protect such a scumbag after doing what he has done and what he did to her very bloodline, her children, etc. It's really messed up, especially since we know she's been around for like 2,000 years. Seeing her children just killing each other is just like, what the hell? Like, yeah, she's a broken person, but it's like, it's really messed up, especially if her entire objective was to get Mikasa to the origin point to kill Eren. It just is like, it's clear that she had a mind and she knew the problem, but it's like, why just not end the problem herself when she clearly had the power to do so? And why was she working with Eren? It just, there's a lot of things that become very complicated if, you know, it's just Stockholm Syndrome or love or whatever. So I wish Isayama would have given more details and information about King Fritz and who he really was before everything happened. But anyways, besides that, we need to move into another segment that is legit kind of bad, and that is Historia. Historia as a character, I'm just going to be completely blunt here. I'm just going to show this scene here because I think that it's legitimately such a sad moment, because Historia was a very powerful female character that became a ruler. She had a birthright, etc. She was up there side by side with Eren, and obviously Eren's motivation was to kind of keep her out of this and all that, but she was really sidelined. There was, at the time when this was coming out in the manga, and even I saw anime discussion of it, there was a lot of discussion that maybe this child here that Historia had was Eren's child. There was a lot of speculation, but there's this random no-name guy that she's with that doesn't really ever get any information, we don't get information about, that she has a child with, and obviously she's trying to have a happy life, but it's just, Historia was a completely dropped plotline. Like, her character was just completely dropped and not really ever used ever again, really, after she became, you know, who she really was. So it's just, like, sad how her character was done here, because she never really got anything else to her character. Yeah, apparently she got the whole history, knew the future and stuff, but it's like, we didn't see her do any of that at all. Just, whole paradise got killed. We saw it at the end credits. So, her character was wasted. Just straight up wasted. That's my 2 cents on the matter. Now, besides that, we also got to talk about, like, this final scene with Reiner. I gotta show this. I talked about this literally when I did the manga, and I'm gonna do it here. Reiner literally, as you can see here, he grabs Historia's letter, and he sniffs it. This is the last scene Reiner is ever in for the anime and the manga, and his last thing he does is sniffs Historia's letter like a loser. Like, he sniffs it, and it's just like, bro, what? Like, it's pathetic. It's legitimately pathetic. So, it's sad to see that Reiner's final scene just amounted to him sniffing letters. And this is a guy that had so much to where he's like, he just wanted to die. And there's even so many scenes in this episode, this final episode, where he's like, I just want to die pretty much. Oh, I could take the Colossal Titan's explosion, etc. It's just like, this poor man was reduced to, I'm just gonna sniff letters and never have anything. He never even got with Historia, nobody. He ended up alone. And I'm not a shipper by any means, and I'll get more into that in a second. But, it's very pathetic, and it comes off just very sad that this is the last time we'll ever see Reiner in the anime, him just resorting to sniffing Historia's letter. And I just think that, for a character that's so iconic and entangled with the story, thanks to being the Armored Titan, it's sad to see that this is his final moments. It's just like, really? There could have been just so much better for his character, but this truly is his final moments for the story. So, yeah. But let's segue over into John. And I want to make this one really quick, and I also want to make a brief disclaimer. John as a character, I don't hate him. And I also don't care that technically he ended with Mikasa, because I'm no shipper. I want to keep this 100% real, okay? I'm not a shipper. I don't care who Mikasa ended up with, if it was Eren or whoever. I didn't give a crap. I didn't. But Isayama made this final episode and the final chapter very romance heavy, like definitely wanted to imply that all of it was about love and romance and all of that. So basically, it's very important to talk about and kind of the message behind it and what it means to the story. Aaron's entire objective is for Mikasa not to move on. Like we saw him break down, it's like, no, I don't want that. I don't want her to move on. I don't want her to forget about me. I don't want her to get with anyone. And in a way, Aaron wins. She never does move on. She never moves on, and she continuously comes to his grave, has his scarf on, she's buried with his scarf, she delivers flowers to him, and she even buries herself next to him. And so it's clear that she never moves on. But the thing is, FYI, we know she gets with someone. Even in the anime it shows it, but let me show you this scene. So basically, at the end here, you literally see her with a kid, and it's very clear this is John, and she comes here to constantly just, be beside Aaron's grave, visit him, etc., family, friends, whatever. And the reason why I think that this is really bad is not that she's visiting him, but the reason why she's visiting him is because she never moves on. She's buried with a scarf, and that's the significance here, is that the fact that she still has the scarf on showcases that she still loves him. That's the whole point of the scarf. And so, the fact that she has the scarf on, while visiting his grave with John next to her and her kid, John is continuously reminded that the only reason why she is with Mikasa, like, why he's with her, is because he won, because he lived. Like, she never would have chose him. She never would have been with him. She would have been with Aaron. But the only reason why, she is with him is because he didn't die and Aaron died. And so, thanks to circumstances, why he wins. And it's a really awful feeling. John has to feel very awful about that, basically. And the fact that's also never tackled showcases one of the other fundamental flaws, once again, with romance and love with Isayama and Attack on Titan. For instance, he's not good with love and romance. It's very clear. Like, the whole Historia stuff and King Fritz, to just now with John and Mikasa, to Aaron and Mikasa, and then we have the stuff, like, the most organic one, honestly, is just, like, and it's not even that good, but Armin and just, like, Annie. It's the only somewhat okay one, but it's just, like, romance in this is not good. Like, Isayama, it's not a strong suit. And him kind of making the story around that definitely does not do justice. It definitely undermines a lot of things. I feel like degrades the quality of a lot of things. And so I just think that that's really a bad thing to see John's also final moments as he dies, to be with someone that's only with him because he wins, he didn't die, and Aaron's dead, and he's constantly reminded as well, and she never moves on. That's to feel bad. But, anyways, besides all of that, this is the end. Attack on Titan is over. A decade-long journey has come to a close, and just think, a few years from now, there's going to be people that are going to watch Attack on Titan for the first time and start from the first episode to the conclusion in a binge. And that's going to be probably a magical experience, and I wonder how they're going to feel about that. But, love it or hate it, Attack on Titan has shaped the industry, and I'm going to miss it. I'm legit going to miss this. I'm going to miss this show. There's a lot of good moments sprinkled in, like the Levi stuff and all that, because he's basically the old guard. And I go more into details in some of these other scenes, all that. You can watch my manga review videos to talk about it. Like, I talk about some positive aspects of the final chapter as well. But yeah, this is a good episode, and the passion, effort, and love and detail that has been put into this series from start to finish, from episode 1 of season 1 to where we're at now, it's insane. I'm really happy for Attack on Titan to actually have closure and all of its content animated. Now we just need to wait for Baron Next Generations, which we know that this entire scene is sequel bait. Let's keep it real. But I want to leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It has been a magical experience. Tell me your thoughts, how you felt about the ending in the comments below. Chibi out.